And we are live. Hello, happy Friday, Women of the World Network. My name is Elle. It's great to be here with you. Hello, Myriam. Welcome.
Hi, Elle. How are ya?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's good to have you. Today, I'm going to have a conversation with one of our members, Myriam Martinez. And before we jump on, I'm so excited, by the way, about our upcoming conversation. Thank you so much, Myriam. I love how everything just works out the way it should be. Before we jump on, let me introduce Myriam. Myriam Martinez is a licensed psychotherapist, registered art therapist, women's life coach, successful entrepreneur, and founder of the Wild Woman's Creative Corner community. Myriam brings over 15 years of experience working with women around issues of stress, self inadequacy, and self identity. She gently guides women towards a path of learning to embrace their humanity, I love that, and loves themselves fiercely through the power of self compassion and creativity. Miriam deeply believes that women are creative, intuitive, intelligent beings that are often conditioned to put themselves last and therefore lose touch with themselves and their creative spirit. Miriam's calling in this life is to teach women the power and importance of putting themselves first, loving themselves as much as their own best friend, and tapping into their creativity for personal and professional happiness, ease, and success. Miriam is based out of Northern California and is the mom of two teens and two fur babies. Welcome, Miriam.
Thank you for having me, Elle. This is so great. I'm happy to be here.
So awesome. I'm excited. I'm glad this worked out and I'm excited to have this conversation with you. And I love, love, love what you do. It's just so perfect. And, I love talking about uh feminine energy, and as I'm reading this, it's just all of that, right? But we before we jump into that conversation, one question I always love to ask is, what makes you unique and what makes you authentic?
Well, I think that one of the things that makes me unique as a human in general is that I just really, really love learning and I really love life and I really love being aware of beauty all around me in all its forms. And that really translates into the work that I do, because in the work that I do, what makes me unique and authentic is that I'm very aligned with myself and who I am. So I show up authentically with my clients. I'm aware when there's a misalignment between how I'm living my life and what it is that I do for a living. And I'm always aware to catch that and realign so that I can show up with my clients in the best way possible. And I
Mhm.
think one of the things that makes me unique as a women's life coach for sure is that I'm also a licensed therapist and a registered
Yeah.
art therapist. So
Mhm.
that is a very unique thing because I'm bringing in almost 20 years of experience in that field into the work with my coaching. So I have a lot of expertise and education and experience around understanding human beings, how we work, how we think, right? And not that anybody could ever reach, quote unquote, expert status, right? We won't always know everything about humans, but I feel pretty confident in what I know and understand about humans and how I can bring that knowledge in the work that I do with clients to help them succeed in whatever goal they have for themselves.
I love that. This is so awesome. Continuous learning and in your combination, I think we spoke about that the other day. I think it's so unique in itself, and continuous learning and the this thirst for knowledge. I think it's so important, right, in this moving world today, and being flexible enough, but also always upgrading. I think that's so important to have that. So I love that. I love that about you. Tell us more about yourself. Where are you originally from, and how did you find your way here, where you are right now in Northern California?
Yes, yes. So I was actually born in Panama and I immigrated to San Francisco when I was about 7.5.
Mhm.
And I'm an interesting mix of Central America because my dad is from El Salvador and my
Mm,
mom is from Nicaragua. And they immigrated and met and married and had all their kids in Panama. So it's really just like a nice little mix of Central America, right? Sometimes I playfully call myself a Central American mutt. I
yeah.
take in from three different cultures, but mostly I identify with my Panamanian culture for sure. So yeah, I immigrated to San Francisco when I was 7, and lived and grew up in the whole Bay Area. But from the time I was a really young kid, I was always curious about people and why they did the things they did. I was always a kid who questioned, wanted to know more. I don't think I was the kind of kid at all that would just tolerate somebody telling me this is how it is. I would want to know the why behind it constantly. That really annoyed some of the adults in my life, but it didn't stop me. And that's my energy. It's like, no, I want to know, and I deserve to know, right? Because we all deserve to have our questions answered as much as possible. So I was always a curious kid, but in high school, I took my first psychology class and I never looked back. I knew that was going to be the way that I could learn and understand people more. And I'm a very, very sensitive person. I'm what's classified as a highly sensitive person. You can Google that if you want to learn more about that. And so the world can be a little challenging, right? Because it's pretty rough out there.
Yeah.
And so learning more about psychology and how people work helped me understand me and how I work, right? And so with that came a lot of freedom, because I feel like the more you learn about what I call your personal operating manual, like, oh, this is how I do things, or this is how I think, or these are the feelings that I have from time to time, then the better you can function in the world, because you know yourself pretty well. So from that experience, though, I mean, I've done so many things in my life. I've worked right out of high school. I worked at Planned Parenthood, out of all places, helping, young teens access healthcare for themselves. I've always worked in the nonprofit world because I always wanted to help people, right? I was a preschool teacher for almost 7 years. I did that for a really long time because I love children and human development, how people, again, develop and learn and grow. And from that place, I found an art therapy program close to where I lived. And it was a master's program with a dual master's in marriage and family therapy and art therapy. And so my heart jumped, and that's kind of how you know that something's calling to you. At least that's how I see it. And I applied for the program and got accepted. But the interesting story about that for me is that when I entered the program, I entered it under the guise of helping other people, which is kind of like a classic, woman pattern, right?
Yeah.
And so I did not think that I would need to invest in any art making for myself, because it was just something that I was going to do for other people. And so interestingly enough, it was a requirement for me to take 6 units of art before I started the master's program.
Wow.
And I was a little bit upset. I was younger, I was a little bit more arrogant and was like, why do I need to do this? This isn't how I want to do it. But it was the best gift that could have ever been given to me, which really speaks to kind of sometimes the things that we resist are the things we need the most, right?
Yeah.
So I started taking art classes and kind of started discovering that, wow, just working with art can be so freeing and healing and constructive and productive, And as I moved through my art therapy program and learned more and more about the healing elements of art, et cetera, and began to apply it for myself, everything just transformed from there. So in my work as a therapist and an art therapist, it just is something that transforms people, right? It just does, because art making can be such a tapping into the soul and your heart, places deep within inside yourself that you don't normally access.
Yeah, and I want to talk more about that. We have some comments here. Art therapy is wonderful. And someone, commented, great phrase, personal operating manual. Yeah, that's a great phrase. Yeah, but I want to kind of talk more deeper on that exact thing, art. And by the way, your upbringing, I love that. It's so unique and combination of different cultures, right? And you coming from Panama, but your parents are from different backgrounds. So interesting. So I love that. But I want to also talk about art and why it's important, and why is it so healing? What about it that makes it, because I know it is, right? And I know you have a class coming up which we'll talk about in a minute. But talk to us why it's and what it's done for you, like you mentioned, since you started.
Sure. So humans have been making art since the beginning of time as a way to communicate and express themselves, write stories, etc. So it's something that is innate in all of us. For women specifically, we are creative beings. And most women, and maybe even some of the women watching right now, kind of push back on that a little bit, no, I'm not creative, all these things. And my stance is very firm. I'm actually not asking if you're creative. You are creative. Women are creative by nature. We're instinctual, intuitive. We sink into our hearts and our body, right? And so art and creativity is almost essential for women to be able to function and live the lives that they want to live. Without that aspect, we become very stagnant. We become very stuck. Things don't flow in the same way. So for women specifically, it's a very important tool to take care of yourselves and lead productive and happy lives, right? But art specifically as a healing tool, I mean, there's so many elements to how it can be healing, but one of the main elements is that it directly taps into the calming centers of your brain, and it can access unconscious material that you didn't really understand or know about before, and then it emerges in the art and it gives you insight and awareness, kind of like an aha moment, like, oh, is that what's going on? Okay, I see. Right, that's good information. I can take that information, put it in my operating manual, right, and keep going. So it's really just an amazing tool for insight and awareness, learning more about yourself, working through emotions, moving through stress. I mean, it just goes on, all of the benefits of art. And I have to say that a disclaimer, if I could, right, because when I started working or moving through my art therapy program, I was in a room with masters in fine arts. I mean, people that were just amazing artists, and I was hiding. I was scared because I didn't consider myself to be an artist. I just didn't label myself in that way. I'd
Mhm,
never had anybody praise me for it or anything like that.
mhm.
And so it really was an internal manifestation, right? Or work in progress of tapping into my own artist self and creativity through the process of being in this art therapy program. So I call myself a stick figure artist. And that's hopefully helps people relax about art making, because when I teach courses and workshops that include art making, they're not art classes per se. I've had somebody ask me, oh, do you teach art? I don't teach art. I teach art as a healing tool and as a stress management tool for women. And that's very different, right? So it's really about the process, not the product. So it doesn't matter what the end result of your art is. It's really
Right.
more about the process and what you're gaining and what the end result can offer you in
Yeah.
terms of insight about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true, how it's true. We are, like, I remember going to those classes, wine and art, and doing that. And we are so critical, as if I'm gonna just create this masterpiece and sell it. It's really
Yes, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves around that. But I think, one of the things that I talk about a lot is that our society has kind of defined art in that way. It's defined kind of like by, monetary status, or whether it's been in museums, or there's like this whole
yeah,
art culture that's very exclusive and, dare I say, sometimes elitist, that defines art. And I really argue against that, because we can't tell a 2-year-old that made, a finger painting masterpiece that they're not artists.
yeah.
So that applies to then all of us, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I love that you made that distinction though in your classes. It's not about how great my my painting will be. And that's such a profound and important distinction, because then we're really focusing on, okay, let's just make this session therapeutic for me. I'm just going to enjoy it. I don't care about, it's just having
Hmm.
an attitude from the start.
That's right. To let go.
Yeah, let go. And then I think that creates even a better effect, versus if I came to it, okay, I'm just gonna I'm going to try to create this. uh,
Yes, exactly. Well, that's just it. It's like you're getting out of your head
yeah,
and
yeah,
into your heart and your body and your spirit, right? I mean, our heads are important. Obviously, we can't get by without them, but I think we spend too much time in there. And
hmm,
it can be a dangerous place if we spend too much time in there, because the mind can take us to so many different places, right? So
yeah,
getting out of your head from time to time, for
hmm,
me throughout the day, right?
hmm,
And getting into your body, taking some time to reconnect with yourself, and art making is such a great way to do that. Even if it's just a quick little silly doodle,
yeah.
it's something, right? That gets your brain moving in a different way, gets your body moving in a different way. So it's really important as a stress management tool.
Hmm, hmm, yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. So I wanted to again kind of bring attention to your unique background and the licenses that you have and the combination of those that you can help women with, because there are business coaches, right? We have some amazing ones in our community, love coaches, and but I think your uniqueness with the combination of psychotherapy and the art and all of that combined makes it very unique. And by the way, ladies, Myriam will be one of our coaches in our health program, in our empower health module, rather, in our empower program next year. I'm so excited. I think she's going to bring absolutely enormous value to that. And I'm just excited to have her host that module. But yeah, let's talk about your upcoming event. And we will post a link in the comments. But let's talk about that, the date and what it's going to be about.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited about this. I get really excited about my workshops because I love sharing, how art making can be helpful in all of these different ways. So if I'm a little giddy, that's why I
Yeah.
get really excited about them. But before I say, I want to just actually segue a little bit by saying that, you know, when we're not focused on the actual product of art and we're just going in it with the process and, like we said, letting go, it's
Hmm,
such a metaphor for life.
hmm, yeah.
So the art process is this metaphor of making mistakes, letting go, learning how to be with those feelings that come up as, the piece doesn't come out the way that you thought, or, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's really just this amazing experience to work through all of these things that we go through in daily life,
Hmm.
right? Just through the process of art making. So it's a great segue to, what my next workshop is all about, which is called The Art of Slowing Down,
Hmm.
Getting Out of Survival Mode and into Relaxation Through the Power of Art Making. So this workshop is going to be so great because I am going to dive into stress in particular, what it is, what it looks like, how it affects our body, and then how art making can really battle stress, essentially, right? Manage it, teach us to manage it, as well as work through challenging emotions. And we'll do a little bit of art making in the class. Nobody needs to feel scared or intimidated about that, because your stick figure artist is in charge. Right?
Great.
So it's all about just having fun and letting go, and maybe you can learn something. A lot of the feedback that I get from women that do my classes is, I didn't know I was this creative, or I didn't know I liked watercolor, or whatever the medium is. And so they discover this new part of themselves that ignites, in my opinion, this whole other part of their being. And that's really exciting for me in the work that I do with women, and why I do the work with women.
Yeah. That's great. And I think when we let go, we can create something, because then we're not focused on, we're not pressured, right? There is no that stress that
Absolutely.
on us. And then we can actually create, whether it's that drawing that we do, that art, or anything we do.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
yeah, I love how you said, how you brought that analogy to life and just connection to with life, letting go. It's yeah, it's so good, so good. When is that class? When is your workshop?
Yes, it's on Tuesday, August 31st
Okay.
at 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Uh-huh.
And I guess I'll put the link in the comments
Yeah.
so that people know how to register. It's going to
Yeah.
be a lot of fun. It's a 1 hour virtual workshop.
That's great. Yeah, we're gonna post the links. And again, I want to thank you, Myriam. I know we always have these great conversations, and they flow so fast. But I'm so glad we did this. I learned more about you and how you've come to doing what you're doing today. I'm excited. I think I want to come to your class on August 31st as
Oh, yay,
well.
that's so wonderful.
It will be great. So ladies, Miriam's gonna post the links in the comments. Register for the class. If you cannot make the class, just connect with her. She has so much knowledge, and I just love that. What you do is it's different, right? But it's so important as well. So everything that we talked about today, connect with her. Thank you, Miriam, for taking the time today. This was wonderful.
Well, thank you so much, Elle, for having me. I could talk to you all day. This was a lot of fun. And thank you for everybody who was watching. And please don't hesitate to reach out and connect with me. I love connecting with women all over the world. So
Thank you, ladies, again for joining us. Thank you, Myriam, and everyone, everywhere, all over the world. Never forget how amazing you are. You are a wow woman, and we talk to you soon. Bye.
bye.